WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
Is now morning.
Live in the studio.
It's the Out of Bounds Show with Lowbound. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Well, it's a giveaway Thursday. Giveaway Thursday. It's also game day, which I don't know how many of you are excited about that. So we'll have to dive into that and see if you're locked into some Ole Miss and Hell State baseball. I will not be in Starkville tonight. Tomorrow night, I got my son's high school graduation, so I may make it Saturday. We'll see. We'll see. Blake says he's going for a couple of days. I don't know if he's going to the game. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We are powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Lounge, full bar, and food for the PGA Championship this weekend, NBA playoffs, and SEC baseball. I know all of you are rooting for LeBron. And also Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, DancingRabbitGolf.com, DancingRabbitGolf.com. And you can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. That's our channel. Hit that subscribe button. We love you. And Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors. Caller line, 601-707-3750. Twitter handle @BowBounds. And your Ag Up Equipment text line is 601-885-3776. We'll have Michael Alford on, Florida State Athletic Director, at 7:30. A lot going on in the ACC as far as their media rights, where they're going, how far behind they are with the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. What are their options? What is Disney, ESPN actually willing to do for them, if anything? And how many schools actually care in the conference? I mean, do Duke and North Carolina and UVA and Georgia Tech and Pitt, Syracuse, and Boston College, that's weird for me to say. They weren't in when I was growing up. That was the Big East. Do they care? But Florida State and Clemson care, and Michael Alford, who's tied to Mississippi State, is the athletic director at Florida State. He'll stop by and hang out. We'll talk television, TV, money, and the ACC and what's next. Speaking of Florida State, they landed Keon Coleman.
Uh-oh.
I'd have lost money there. I would have thought Ole Miss would have outbid them for I didn't think that FSU would be outbidding Ole Miss in football players. But it happened. Michigan State transfer, wide receiver. How good is he? I don't know. I mean, these guys coming in late are getting a boost because this is it. Is he really good? Is he good? Is he pretty good? We'll see. He did let everybody know he's only staying about 8 or 9 months.
That's so good. I'll spend the next 9 months in Tallahassee.
Yeah. We're going to find that the transfer portal is not exactly what people want it to be.
Free reign trades.
Yeah. You can get away with it, I think, in basketball. Not every year, by the way. All these teams, Beard, Jans, they're just going to, they're going to add all these transfers. Some years it'll work a lot, some years it's going to look ugly. You just never know, right? I mean, you're bringing in all these guys, throwing a bunch of cash, and then they all go and smash cheeseburgers and realize, hold on, what's going on? But we'll see. Keon Coleman to Florida State. Who was Jake Thompson?
That's correct, with On 3 Sports yesterday.
On 3 Sports. Jake said he called it yesterday.
Yeah, he said he was leaning Florida State, which you and I looked up at each other like, what just happened?
Yeah, that doesn't happen that often. I'm enjoying bringing Jake on the show. And again, I would have, if I would have gambled and I would have bet Keon Coleman to Ole Miss.
Here's the problem for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss is you struck out on Keon Coleman. Chris Marshall got dismissed from the team. You need receivers.
Yeah, I don't know what's left out there.
I mean, you're dragging the bottom
Georgia
of the barrel.
picked up a baller. But if they want somebody,
it's Georgia.
It's Georgia. It's not going to be Ole Miss or Florida State. I mean, hey, Mississippi State didn't even get a visit. So, although they won an NIL battle over the weekend in basketball, Jans versus Beard. So, a lot of people don't think that Mississippi State is in the game, and they are as far as NIL. And they signed a dude that or committed. I don't know if he officially signed or not, but they have a kid from Marshall coming in. Is it A.J. Taylor?
I believe that's correct. Hold on.
Okay. He averaged over 20 points a game. And he's old. You know, if you're going to do this, I think you want guys that are 22, 23 years old. But there was a connection through the staff, and they landed him. So there's your transfer portal update, Blake.
Andrew Taylor.
Maybe I grew up with an A.J. Taylor. Did I grow up with an A.J. Taylor at JA or MRA?
It is a great point that you just made, though, about the transfers, because a lot of times you see schools get former four-star who's been on campus 2 years and has 0 playing time, and then you get a recruiting bump when you get that transfer. It's like, well, what did you really get?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the question for a good bit of this.
Yeah. In baseball, too. I mean, we're kind of seeing that with Mississippi State this year, it feels like at times, where you go, what did you really pay for?
Well, they crushed it with well, they didn't pay those guys, but like LSU did.
Yeah.
But Amani Larry and Ledbetter have been very productive. Dome was very productive at times. And Aaron Nixon, once he got healthy, has actually pitched pretty well.
Is that your hit rate right there, kind of?
Yeah.
I mean,
and then Gartman, you know, well, Tyler Davis has thrown well the last two. I say all in all, that's pretty successful. Yeah. If your hit rate's going to be 30 to 40%, you hit 50, I think you should run down the hall, high-fiving.
Yeah. Especially if you hit the right positions, I guess, is part of it too.
They didn't hit enough of the pitchers, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
but with football, it's
while raking is important, swing and miss is more important.
See LSU's bullpen.
Yeah. You never put it past LSU to put it together, but I don't know. They're still really good, though. It just depends on the matchups they get in the postseason. So you have Dogs, Aggies tonight. Maroon and white versus maroon and white. Schlossnagle making his first appearance.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's correct.
In Starkville, unless they pulled TCU in some kind of preseason non-conference tournament or in a regional that I haven't kept up with at some point, then that's Schlossnagle's first deal to Starkville, Mississippi. He could have been the coach. He wanted the job.
Oh.
And there was something there that Cohen didn't like because he put some feelers. He did some thing. He met. They flirted and they flirted and they flirted, and then something went weird. And Cohen went off and went with some other guys and eventually landed on Chris Lemonis, who we all believe will be coming back for another year. Sure sounds like Jake Gautreaux will too, unless he gets Bam or Georgia. There's nowhere else unless it's a good P5 job. Because if you're making $500,000 or plus, you're not going to take a pay cut.
No.
I don't think, unless he and the wife have decided the run's up and I got to get out of here. I think that's So Lemonis and Jake Gautreaux back maybe, and then a pitching coach. And Christian Ostrander should be named the head coach at Southern Miss, I guess at the end of the season or any day now. Speaking of, we'll have Mason Irby in live in studio at 8:30, and he played baseball at Southern Miss for Scott Berry. Big board coming up next. This is ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and I'm your host, Bo Bounds.
What's on the big board? What's on the big board?
All right, we'll go to Tallahassee, Florida at 7:30. We'll welcome in Athletic Director, Florida State Seminoles, Michael Alford. And I got to know Michael a little bit, 13, 14 years ago, realized the tide of Mississippi State, Ron Polk. At that time, he was, Blake would have freaked out. He was working as a vice president for Stephen and Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. And now he's the AD at FSU. He went on to Oklahoma under Joe Castiglione, and then Central Michigan AD, and then took the FSU job. He's also been at Alabama and Southern Cal athletic departments. So good resume. And Michael Alford will join us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your car and home and save with your Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Michael Alford, 7:30. We'll have Mason Irby at 8:30. He played for Scott Berry at Southern Miss. Scott Berry is retiring after an unbelievable career, not just at Southern Miss, but throughout the state of Mississippi. And Mason Irby was a really good player for Southern Miss, and he'll stop by at 8:30. He'll be live in studio if you want to watch that. Search YouTube, go to YouTube and search Out of Bounds Sports. And then at 9:30, we'll have the numbers nerd. I talked to him for way too long on the phone yesterday. I think I was trying to cook some things, and I had him on speaker, and there were times where I wasn't listening to him, but he was talking really, really fast about 2-point conversions and fourth downs and stuff and whatever. So the numbers nerd, Dave Bartu, will join us at 9:30 on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. More than competitive rates and excellent customer service powered by Farm Bureau Insurance. I want to say good morning, welcome into you. Our Twitter handle at Bowbounds. We're going to give away a Long Branch Bourbon bag cooler. And we're going to stop. We'll throw in a Whiskey 61 hat. We posted an article on Danica Patrick on whiskey61.com this morning. She was talking about what makes her golf game go. And she said barefoot and bikinis. So if you want to check that out, that's whiskey61.com. And we'll throw some other merch and swag in. So if you want, we'll go with best text on any of our topics, including food and booze, as you know, travel, whatever. And that is via the Ag Up Equipment John Deere Tractor text line, 601-885-3776, 885-3776. Long Branch Bourbon Cooler stuffed with merch and swag. Good morning. Welcome in. Blake Scott's middle name is not only bacon grease, but swag.
You want to know something funny? You know where Michael Alford got his master's from?
Well, give me a hint.
Go Hogs.
Yes, sir.
Sam Pittman is a great American.
Got a little SEC in him.
Yeah.
Got a little SEC in him. Oh, Michael.
I think he spent a year or two at Mississippi State.
That's why he's giving Jim Phillips, current commissioner of the ACC, he's giving Jim Phillips a lot of, you know what, little sand in the pants, so to speak.
Oh,
He's getting they're getting a little feisty over there in ACC country.
Well, they've got coaches breathing down their necks. That's what's happening. Mike Norvell, when coaches get paranoid, and they're always paranoid, but there's different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they go to DEFCON 1 paranoid, like Dabo Swinney and Mike Norvell, that's when ADs think that they could lose. Both ADs want them to stay. We don't know how good Norvell will be, but he's turning the corner. Obviously, Dabo's one of the greatest in the history of college football. So as an AD, if you have a good coach, the last thing you want to do is lose them and do another coaching search.
Yeah, especially lose them for the sake of you not doing something, not because they retired or something like that. There's a difference.
Right, and also, it's your main revenue. It drives all your revenue.
Yep.
All the other, for the most part, all the other sports lose money. That's why if your son, daughter plays softball, tennis, golf, track and field, any number, you should buy at least one, if you can afford it. You should buy at least one season. I'm being serious. You should buy a season ticket in football.
Yeah.
Because without that, your son or daughter doesn't get to go on the bus, plane, scholarship,
correct,
all the food, all the merch, all the good coaching, all the strength and conditioning, PT, orthopedics, and everything else.
Facilities, all that good stuff. Yeah. Let me ask you this question. We talked about
But definitely don't let me be in a tailgate where you're dogging
the
football.
Yeah.
While your sport
is getting carried.
Because let's just say you have 18 sports in your athletic department. And if you wanted to say basketball makes a little bit of money, you can run it two different ways, whatever you want to do. 17 of the 18 don't make money, or 16 of the 18 don't make money.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. We talked about the Air Jordan movie and how that might be arguably the best sports business move of all time. Is signing the ACC grant of rights, which happened in 2013 in response to the first wave of large-scale conference realignment, was signing the grant of rights for the ACC where they gave up their ability to negotiate for 23 years. Is that the worst sports decision we've seen in recent memory?
That and families that sold NFL teams prior to about 2005, 2000. You know, if you sold in the 80s or 90s,
you got hosed.
Yeah.
But I don't know another example where no football player, no professional athlete has ever said, yes, I'll take a 20-year contract that I can't renegotiate anytime. Like, no one does that. But the ACC was like, we'll do it.
No. Scottie Pippen signed a terrible contract in the 90s with the Bulls. But you're right. That just doesn't happen that often.
It's incredible that a group of people who are supposedly intelligent would sign that kind of deal.
Is it? I mean, it was a bunch of presidents and chancellors. I mean,
scared they were going to lose their team.
I mean, you're Mississippi State, has the best president they've ever had. I think Ole Miss believes that theirs is developing into a good president. Southern Miss has a new one. I don't know much about that. I knew I knew Dr. B. I really liked him. I've been to dinner with him. He's a super nice guy. Really though, are we surprised? I mean, knowing the way that academia and university bureaucratic administrations, both athletic administrations and academic work.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big chunk of those people that could never make it in the private sector.
How much money? I mean, is it even? Can you even quantify how much they've lost because of this inability to renegotiate?
I get that, Blake, but also if they took their media rights to the street right now, how much would they really get?
That is a great question. And who'd be willing to bid?
I mean, let's go through Georgia Tech. Nobody cares about Georgia Tech, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College, Virginia Tech, NC State, football.
I was gonna say you don't think.
I may have missed one.
You don't think the Duke UNC kind of basketball, like the ACC having so much basketball viewership, does anything for them?
I mean, are their streaming numbers really good? Yes. At the end of the day, is that going to make somebody go crazy on a new media rights deal?
Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
Yeah.
But I think you are right, Blake. If you were able to bring it, take it out for bid and let the free market decide, you would get more money just because it's 5 years later, it's 10 years later.
ESPN wouldn't have to negotiate.
It still wouldn't be anything like the SEC or Big Ten.
I don't think if you combined all three leftover conferences, you would get close to the SEC or Big Ten.
I agree with that. We're giving away a Long Branch bourbon cooler, a bag cooler. So, best text today. We're heavy interviews, so you got to jump in on the text line, 601-885-3776. Hey, Mudbugs is open today, Blake. And
heck yeah.
Pair your crawfish with a Stella Artois or a Big Wave Golden Ale or a Michelob Ultra. Cold beer. And Mudbugs, 2 locations in Rankin County. Best crawfish in Mississippi. Shrimp is amazing, too. Michael Alford, Florida State AD, next.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
All right, it's game day in Starkville. Dogs host the Aggies. That's brought to you by Bulldog Burger in Starkville, Ridgeland right here, and Tupelo. And then Ole Miss at Bama. Ole Miss at Bama. You can watch you can stream all that. In fact, we're about to start talking about that here in just a second. Streaming and media rights. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. This morning, your drive-in is brought to you by Fleetway Market, over 20 locations in Mississippi. Fuel up at Fleetway Market. Don't forget about the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt. They have amazing breakfast sandwiches, and a little bit later in the day, their ribs are divine. All at Fleetway Market and the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt, plus the other 20-plus locations in Mississippi. This is 105.9 The Zone ESPN. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. And our guests join us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. We welcome in Michael Alford, Florida State University Athletic Director coming out of ACC spring meetings. And Michael Alford, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Bo. It's a pleasure to be on with the great one. Always great to hear your voice.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time. Y'all had a very, very busy week. Y'all have a lot. Collegiate athletics and Power 5 has a lot going on with us trying to figure out where all the media rights and consolidation expansion is going. Tell me how you feel from going into the meeting for Florida State and the ACC to coming out of the meetings as far as the future of the ACC and Florida State.
Well, I can tell you, Bo, that was the most in-depth, transparent discussions as a group of institutions we've ever had. And I got to compliment Jim Phillips, our commissioner here in the ACC, and his staff, because they're really working hard to find solutions to the revenue gap and everything that is coming in the future of collegiate athletics, and giving us a lot of great options, putting a lot of different models in front of us. And really, as a group of athletic directors representing their institutions, we had a lot of open, transparent discussions about where each school stands and the future of each institution. So couldn't be more optimistic, I would say, coming out of those meetings. Still a lot of work to be done, but definitely putting some good things in front of us.
He is Michael Alford, FSU Athletic Director on the Out of Bounds Show. All right, so how confident are you and your colleagues that Commissioner Phillips will be able to go to Disney ESPN and bump your media rights deal for the ACC sometime in the foreseeable future, Michael?
Well, I can tell you there's no one I want more, no one better to lead that charge than Jim. He's had a lot of success. I've known him over 20 years. He's one of the top minds and leaders in our industry and the collegiate landscape. He understands it. He understands a position of a Florida State. He understands the position of other institutions. He understands the brand value that a Florida State brings to the conference and to the collegiate sports in general and landscape. So I have a lot of confidence in Jim being able to have those discussions. There's already been some had. I had some with ESPN personally in Amelia Island, which I just got back from last night. So a lot of confidence right now where we're moving forward, and we'll see where it shakes out. But what I'm more excited about are the issues have been on the table. They've been discussed, whether it's individual schools or as a group, and we're at least talking about them now, which from talking to others in the conference that have been in the conference a lot longer than I have, those discussions never took place before. So I'm real excited about it.
So how would Florida? You're right. I mean, I'm looking at as far as generating eyeballs, and you and Clemson lead. Florida State and Clemson lead the way in the ACC in the revenue sport of football. So how would y'all get the vote, Michael, to maybe tier it out a different way? Where if Florida State and Clemson or anybody for that matter, Virginia Tech, Miami, if you make the college football playoff, you receive more money for doing so.
Yeah, I mean that's where the rubber's going to road, correct? And that's some of the things that we're looking at. There's some of the discussions we're having right now. If you look at all the metrics, how they measure media right contracts, we account for about over 25%. When I say we, FSU and Clemson,
wow,
for about 25% of the ACC media value. So those are discussions that are taking place. FSU and Clemson account for 51% of all 4 million plus viewer games in the ACC. So, there are a few brands and a few other brands as well that are leading the charge when it comes to how media contracts are evaluated. With number of households here in the state of Florida, the reach that you get within the state of Florida, and championships and viewership numbers. So there are some top brands, just like every other conference. We're not any different. Every other conference has brands that are leading that media contract, and looking at the distance between the media contracts, I think that needs to be looked at and compensated a little different. So those are just some of the discussions going on.
Florida State AD Michael Alford on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line talking about his program and university and also the ACC as a whole. Michael, have you had discussions about Florida State leaving the ACC at some point?
Within the conference, and we're committed to working with our peers, and we have made our name or our thoughts known that we need to get better, that to compete nationally with the new contracts coming out, that we need to look at our distribution differently, so that Florida State and others can compete for national championships, because those new contracts come into place next year, as you know. And not only that, before our contracts come up, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10 go back to the market again before our contract comes up. So we need to be looking at things differently, and we've made our voices heard within the room.
All right, Michael Alford on the Out of Bounds show. Let's talk football. It looks like Norvell is trending the right way. The program looks to be in good shape. How do you feel about it? And do you feel the excitement? I mean, growing up, Florida State was a top 5 program all during the 80s and 90s and a little chunk of the 2000s, and then kind of lost their way for a second. How do you feel about the trajectory of the football program right now under Coach Norvell?
Well, when we got here 3 years ago and talking to him, we came together at about the same time when we both arrived in Tally. And just being able to see what he's doing, call it getting behind the curtain, but seeing the culture that he's putting into the program, seeing the type of kids, the high character kids that he's bringing into this program, and then also the coaching staff. It's just high character people who really invest in the student athlete and their experience. And that's been what's been fun to watch. I'm a big Good to Great guy by Jim Collins, and just seeing the culture develop, and you seeing the buy-in from the student athletes. They believe in what he's doing. They believe in the accountability that he's talking to them about. And that's what's fun to watch, is see it grow over the last few years. And you had to be patient because when we first got to Florida State, we weren't the old Florida State, as you mentioned. We weren't the team that was 14 straight years ranked in the top 4 in the country. We had to rebuild, let's say, a little bit, but he's going about it the right way. He's building it for sustainable success, because Florida State, as you mentioned again, was the model of sustained success for all those years. So he's building it that way, and that blueprint is here. And he's bringing in the right high character kids that are going to continue that process as we keep moving. And one of the biggest things we did was make an investment in football. When I became AD, we had to upgrade our personnel, and we're more like an NFL team right now. And the way we look at things, and the models and the staff and the scouting that we have, utilizing some of my 10, 12 years in the NFL, and talking to him about what we need on the scouting department, and then also investing in facilities. We broke ground on a new football-only facility. We got over a $200 million stadium upgrade coming.
Wow.
We redid the locker room. We redid the weight room. We continue to push the envelope and looking at what we're doing internally to get better. And I'm always a firm believer that you take care of your internal house first, opportunities will come on the external.
He is Michael Alford, Florida State AD on the Out of Bounds show. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. How do you feel about football scheduling going forward, Michael? And where I'm going with that is, it looks like the SEC is going to go to 9 games, and I don't know if the commissioner is going to take away the mandated non-conference Power 5 game. Do you ever envision a time where Florida State and Florida won't play because of bumped up, just depending on how much we bump it up over the next 5-10 years, conference games? Or do you feel quite confident that game will always be there for the Seminoles and the Gators?
I know here at Florida State we want it. It's great for the state, and it's great for college football overall. We have series home and home starting 25-26 with Alabama. We got 27-28 with Georgia. So we've got some great games coming up. I need to call Zach and get the dogs on the schedule.
Absolutely.
But we got some great games, home and homes coming up. And, but that goes back to, once again, the tradition of Florida State and Coach Bowden. And everything he stood for is playing the best. And how he built this program, we're still never going to shy away from that we're willing to play anyone at any time. And because, I'm always going to play Miami, Clemson, Florida. I say it in the room. When we were doing our rescheduling, the ACC and going to the first ones to go to the 3-5-5 model, I raised my hand and said, look, I understand those two I have to play. I'm not going to shy away from it because it's not only good for our conference to grow the brand of our conference, but it's good for college football. And so we're never going to shy away from playing the very best.
Do you get the sense that we'll go to – you work for the Dallas Cowboys. Do you get the sense that we'll go to a more 10-2, 9-3, that record can make the college football playoffs, especially at that, I don't know, Michael, that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th spot? Mm-hmm. And that we'll have to kind of rewire our brains as college football fans because, as you know, a 9-7, well, when they played 16 games, a 9-7 team could make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. Do you think that's where we're going in college football with the expanded playoff, Michael?
I think there is going to be you're going to have more opportunities because when you go on the road and you play at Clemson, you play at Florida, and those are some tough road games. And you look at everything else and everybody else that we play on a schedule, and even if it's people in different conferences, I think if you go 10-2 and you've played that type of schedule, you have not shied away from people, especially on the non-conference route, you should be rewarded for that. And I do think you're going to see some people get into playoffs, deservingly so, that were willing to go out and schedule a little bit more difficult.
We're visiting with Michael Alford, Florida State AD on the Out of Bounds show. Let's go to NIL. It's still new. It's kind of the wild, wild west. We're hoping to have some guardrails, I'm sure, in the next, 24 to 36 months. But as far as you and your executive team, how much do y'all talk about it? How much are you focused on it? And how important is it for y'all to compete at a high level as far as football and basketball and the other sports, Michael?
It's very important. That is one thing I was fortunate enough to lead all the way back to 2019 when this was first coming out. All the athletic directors, our League One association, asked me to co-chair, working with the NCAA and representing the ADs across the country, to put in the guardrails, to put in agent registration, to put in all these things we recommended to the NCAA. We did all the way back in February of 2020 and saying before this becomes a law, we need to put these things in place. We didn't enact on them. The association, the NCAA, did not feel at the time there was a need to put those guardrails in. So the genie's kind of out of the bottle right now. And it is something we work on daily. We support it. I worked on the state law here in the state of Florida with Representative Chip LaMarca. His bill that got passed, helped him write it, worked on it about how it could have impact collegiate athletics. And that way we can at least now have discussions and go raise money for our NIL and talk about it and send donors to the collective. So it's very important, and it's not going to go away. It's here to stay. I'm in favor of it, always have been, being a collegiate athlete. All three of my daughters were Division I volleyball players. I understand the impact. Matter of fact, we're such leaders that Gus Bilirakis, who chairs the Commerce Committee, when they had one student athlete go up and present to Congress on this, he called Florida State. And I had Kaylee Mudge, one of our softball players, who's very active in NIL, who does it the right way, who's using those funds and those opportunities to pay for her schooling, because she's a partial, just like a baseball player. Softball players are on partial scholarships, paying for that, and also saving for nursing school. She's a model of what the right thing to do and why the rule was enacted in the first place. Went up and really led the discussion in DC, and I've spent a lot of time up there working with the Commerce Committee, at least on the phone with them. And so it is something that's here to stay, and it's something we do need to put in guardrails, agent registration, because I feel for a school in my own state, what happened to them with the quarterback situation. Because at the time, you couldn't talk to your collectives. You had people running collectives, having conversations, it perceived representing your school, but you were not involved in that. And there's risk there for educational damage to your reputation of the university, and nothing you can do about it because you're not involved in those discussions. So we need to get the experts back involved in those discussions that are leading this industry.
He is Michael Alford, Florida State Athletic Director. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone ESPN. All right, let's go to what was it like to work at the Dallas Cowboys under Jerry and Stephen Jones?
Oh, the very best. They Stephen, Jerry Jr., Mr. Jones, they were so good to me. They were so good to my family. We loved living in Dallas, just to be able to, because if you remember, Bo, I was at Alabama at the time with Mal when they came and hired me to come lead the revenue front of going into the new stadium. So spending some time in the old Texas Stadium and then moving and being a part of that project really taught me a lot, and we had a lot of success. And they allowed you just to do your job. And really supported, like I said, myself. We're still very dear friends. Speak often to them if I need advice, to call them. They love to see what we're doing and helping them even on some of their business interests, the Legends side of things that they partner with the Steinbrenners on to talk about collegiate landscape and advising them on some of that. But I will never say a critical thing about what a great organization that is to work for, and how much freedom they give you, but also how much you learn from Mr. Jones and the whole family about how they operate their business.
Well, I'm a big Dak Prescott fan, so
yes,
as you can imagine,
yes.
And
yes,
I'm hoping for an NFC Championship game in the near future.
I think it won't take long. They're excited about their draft picks. They're excited about some of the young players they have to help Dak out a little bit. I love Pollard, what he's doing. 88's unbelievable out there. So I really think they got a bright future coming up here in the next few years.
Me too. Michael Alford, Florida State AD on the Out of Bounds Show. Michael, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Bo, anytime. I appreciate you. Just remember, the only thing this interview cost you is you got to send me some little Deweys.
Done deal. And we'll tell Coach Polk you said hello this weekend.
Please do. Tell my friend, my legend, one of my mentors, hello for me.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Thank you.
Michael Alford on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, Florida State Athletic Director. A lot of moving parts there, and I think they laid it out on the table at the ACC meetings that, hey, they got to get better and they got to grow, and I think Florida State and Clemson and some other schools are driving them to look at other ways to generate revenue. So, Blake, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he clearly has a lot going on in his world.
Yeah. And they're not going to sit back. And just because the SEC and the Big Ten are signing mega deals and will again soon, but the ACC, I think Florida State, Clemson are going to drive the ACC to be as good as they can be.
For sure. And it would be a lot if Miami could get its act together and become worth something. Just to have a third team there.
Well, they pumped a bunch of, as a private school, they pumped a bunch of money in when Mario Cristobal got down there. And you are exactly right. They need those three brands to pop. And then we'll see if North Carolina really wants to get into football. I mean, Mac Brown's a big name, but
I don't know that the ACC, well, let me rephrase, the ACC will never match the SEC and the Big Ten as we know it currently.
Right.
I guess in theory, if there was some super conference between them and the Pac-12 and the Big 12, never say never. But I think that for the ACC, you don't have to even the playing field, but you can't be this far behind, right?
You can't. And don't forget, they have Florida, they have the Mid-Atlantic region, and they have the Northeast. So they have, I mean, they're in heavily populated areas.
Exactly.
Okay. So there is maybe some juice there, as he was talking about. Florida, Mid-Atlantic region, and the Northeast. Michael Alford started his college career at Mississippi State, playing baseball for the Ron Polk before transferring to UAB. And then, boom, hit it off and worked for the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Oklahoma Sooners, Alabama, Southern Cal, and so on. Now the AD at Florida State. He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your car and home and save with your Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Blake, we're giving away a Long Branch Bourbon bag cooler today, stuffed with merch and swag. It's really nice, by the way. And enter via the Ag Up Equipment text line. Best text today goes home with that Long Branch Bourbon bag cooler and merch and swag. The text line for you is 601-885-3776. Want to lay out the rest of the show? We'll have Mason Irby on live in studio at 8:30. He played for Scott Berry, Southern Miss baseball coach, who is retiring after an unbelievable career at Southern Miss and several other places. Mason Irby will join us at 8:30. You can watch that on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. And then the numbers nerd, Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. We're going to talk crazy stuff. 2-point conversions, fourth downs. And then we'll go over Auburn's schedule. Yeah, War Eagles schedule. We've hit Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and A&M. Dave Bartu will join us at 9:30. Don't forget that Mudbugs is open today through Sunday. Best crawfish in Mississippi. Their shrimp is amazing. And enjoy their crawfish with an ice-cold Michelob Ultra, Stella Artois, or one of my favorites, Big Wave Golden Ale. Hour number 2 coming up in a minute.